hashtag Luka Muller.
Yes. Smuggleton, thanks everyone. How's it going? Yeah, fuck yeah, this is so nice, this is so good. You don't always get to do cool gigs like this. Last year I went and did a stand-up comedy at a music festival in Byron Bay called Splendour in the Grass. You guys know it? I was fired up. I was like, this will be fun, won't it? Communicating with the cool young people, talking to the youth of today. And then you walk out and you're on stage in this big empty tent and you look at the crowd and it's just a few dozen teenagers who are just more ketamine than human at that point. You're like, hey guys, how's it going? They're like, this DJ fucking sucks. This will be better than that, I reckon. Fingers crossed. Dan was talking about the Americans. This is true about me. I used to see a therapist. His name was Jeffrey, and he was American. It's pretty fucking weird having a male American for a therapist. It definitely makes it a bit hard to, I guess the word would be respect him. The things he thinks and says. And his name was Jeffrey, spelled Geoff, and then the rest of it, which is a fucking unbearable name for a therapist especially to have, because you're in there and you're trying to be open and honest and vulnerable with these freaks, and I'm telling him, like, Jeffrey, mate, I feel no sense of purpose. I've got an existential crisis. I don't know why I'm alive. I don't know what I'm doing here on Earth. I don't know who I'm here to help. And he's always like, come on, Luka, don't talk about yourself that way. I believe every human being serves an important purpose. I believe every single thing that exists here with us on Earth is an important part of the beautiful symphony that makes up our lives. It's like, oh, really, Geoff? Is that what you fucking think, is it, mate? What about the O in the middle of your name, brother? Where does that sit in the symphony? I can't seem to hear the notes it plays. Every time I type your email address, I'm reminded nothing means anything and we're alone in a fucking cold universe. He asked me quite earnestly once if I've ever had suicidal thoughts, and I told him the truth. I said, yes. Sorry, yes, I have. Thought about cutting myself with a knife, actually, mate. So he's a fucking dog. No, he's all right. He gave it a good go. He would always say I was depressed, and I was I don't know, that's a funny word. I prefer to think that I just feel bad about everything all the time. Is that true? It's just hard to feel good about, the modern world, you know what I mean? I always feel guilty. I never feel like a good person. Give us a cheer if you consider yourself to be a good person. That's cool that it's like 4. But they didn't mind talking about it, did they? It's just hard. It's cool that you think yourself that way, but it's just too hard. I think the system's too broken, you know what I mean? Sometimes you think you do something good. Like, I recently bought these shoes. You guys like them? Yeah. These shoes, right? These are Adidas Gazelle Indoors, part of the new Adidas Towards Zero range, which means that they're 100% vegan and they're made out of 100% recycled materials. Which is good, isn't it? I felt good when I bought them. I'm sure the children that made them are so proud. So much to feel bad about, and I think I used to take it for granted because I grew up in the country, right? And I never thought of them as good people. I always thought these people are stupid and backwards and regressive in their thinking. I want to move to Melbourne. That's where I live now. I want to leave the country. I want to move to Melbourne, where you're surrounded by people that are forward-thinking and progressive and cool and we're on the same page politically. And then I moved to Melbourne about 10 years ago, and I live in the inner north, which is sort of like the inner west of Melbourne. And I'm surrounded by people who are like that, and they're also a bunch of fucking dogs, you would have to say. This is kind of the entire vibe of the suburb I live in. It's like, I respect you, I respect your dignity, I respect your pronouns, but if you put something in my recycling bin, I will fucking stab you, cunt. It's intense. Those are a nice crowd. You seem like quite a horny crowd, is that true? I've misread the room. I thought I was getting a vibe. Never mind. Oh, I don't know, we're all adults here. It's after 6. That's quite early, actually. Let's talk about sex a bit, I think. Do you guys like it? What's your favourite part, sir? You're a beginning, middle, or end guy. Please don't answer that. No, the reason I bring it up, I don't really like sex. How do you feel about that? Ooh. Sort of a cold ambivalence, that's exciting. No, they call it being asexual. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. If you haven't, that's fine. I don't give a shit. I'd never heard of it until a couple of years ago. I was telling a friend, I was like, what's wrong with me? I don't really enjoy sex. I don't really seek it out. When it happens, I can't get into it physically, mentally, emotionally. It just does nothing for me. What's wrong with me? And they were like, there's nothing wrong with you. You might just be asexual. And I'd never heard of that before, so I went and read about it, thought about it a bit, and yeah, asexual. Took me a long time to come to that realisation, but to be fair, it takes me a long time to come to anything, so... Be lying if I said I don't love the tension in people's faces. It's like, oh, it's become very serious and emotional. He really is from Melbourne, this is no good. Oh, it's just a pun about jizz. Thank God! But I was hesitant to ever really talk about it, on stage, but also off stage for a long time. I think I sort of didn't want to, admit it to myself or whatever. But also, as a comedian, it's quite a bad decision, isn't it? Because you want to try to do jokes that are relatable, that people can understand and connect with very easily. And inherently walking out and in less than 5 minutes being like, guys, how shit is rooting, you know? It is quite unrelatable, you'd have to say. But I think since I've started sort of doing these jokes, more people have been able to connect with it than I ever would have guessed, which has been nice. I was doing a cool show a few months ago. There was maybe 50 people there. And they were good. They were a good 50, apart from 4 of these just spiteful boomers who just stared at me angrily the whole time. And just didn't laugh at a single thing that I said, which is, I guess, to be expected, you know? A lot of the time, boomers don't really get jokes, do they? They get properties, you know? Something. Does anyone have a Nurofen, by the way? I've hurt my back going for that low-hanging fruit. I was like, whatever, the boomers don't like me, who cares? It's part of comedy, you just deal with that shit. I was like, whatever, I finish the show, it goes well, I'm walking up these stairs on the way out of the venue, and one of them, this lady, comes chasing after me, and she goes, hey, come back, I want to talk to you. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, thank you so much for talking about this asexuality thing. I'd never heard of that before. I think I might be it. I was like, that's cool, isn't it? How exciting. This is so nice. And she goes, yeah, I'm in my mid-60s. I have a husband and 3 children. I'm like, interesting start. I feel like I got here after a few failed relationships and a lot of introspection, and you got here because you're sick of sucking off Tony. But that's okay. There are many doors through which you can enter God's home. Welcome! But she sort of opened up to me. It was a very nice moment. She goes, no, it just means a lot. I've never heard anyone talk like that. And for my whole life, I've always thought that my relationship to sex is different to anybody else that I've ever been brave enough to speak to about it. So it means a lot. She said, thank you. She said, I love you, which is intense. And she gave me a hug. I was like, damn, this woman's actually one of the coolest audience members ever. This is a nice moment. And then her husband sort of popped his head out and was like, leave the comedian alone. You're annoying him. Leave him alone. And she went, no. I'm telling him how much I hate sex. And he said, fuck off, Maureen. It was incredible. I'm doing a show at the Manning Bar, which, if you don't know, is a bar buried deep within the depths of Sydney Uni. Fucking nobody's coming to it. It's at 9:15 if you can be bothered coming tonight or tomorrow night. I'll give you a flyer for it on the way out. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was your first act, Luka, Muller.